Hey everyone, I'm Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Today, let's talk about China's ancient wine culture. That line from the Ming Dynasty classic, Kagenten, flowers are best seen half open. Wine is best drunk, half drunk, perfectly captures its essence with stunning brevity. Flowers are most captivating just before a full bloom, and the most delightful state for drinking wine is that pleasant tipsiness, floating yet still clear-headed. In China, wine culture is a river flowing for 9,000 years. Back in 7000 BC, at Jiahu village in Wuyan County, Henan archaeologists discovered residue of a fermented beverage on ancient pottery shards. Our ancestors used wild fruits, honey, and wild grains, harnessing nature's power to let them quietly transform in clay pots, creating the earliest form of Li wine. This predates the earliest recognized winemaking evidence in the Middle East by over 1600 years, firmly claiming the throne as the world's oldest winemaking technology. This original Li probably tasted like sweet rice porridge with barely any alcohol content, so those ancient boasts about draining 300 cups might actually have been possible back then. If they were drinking today's potent 50 to 60% baijiu, forget 300 cups, 3 cups would turn any hero into a fool. How did wine come about? Ancient texts offer no clear record, but they pass down imaginative tales. One story is monkeys making wine. It tells of monkeys in the mountains carelessly storing leftover wild fruits in tree hollows. Exposed to sun and rain, the fruits slowly rotted and fermented, bubbling away. Curious monkeys tasted it, and that dizzy, floating feeling made them dance with joy, eventually passing out drunk beside the hollow. Our ancestors observed this and realized with wonder, rotten fruit could turn into this joyful water. Another more famous legend credits wine's birth to a sage ruler and a chef. During the time of the Great Yu, his imperial chef Yidi, with clever ingenuity, brewed an unprecedented delicious liquid. Respectfully, Yidi presented the first cup of fine wine to Yu, who had just tamed the floods. After tasting it, Yu exclaimed, "Delicious!" But this ruler, famed for frugality and diligence, suddenly grew stern. Instead of rewarding Yi, he harshly reprimanded him, distanced himself, and even issued a far-reaching warning: future generations will surely have rulers who lose their kingdoms due to indulgence in wine. History echoed this cruelly. The last rulers of the Jia dynasty, Ji, and the Shang dynasty, Zhou, were both notorious for their debauchery. Legends say they built enormous wine pools, hung meat like forests, and reveled all day with concubines and sycophants, ultimately drinking away the empires their ancestors founded. Wine, from the very start, carried this dual nature, captivating yet alarming. Chinese wine comes in many varieties. The earliest were undoubtedly fruit wines and grained fermented Li. Using naturally occurring yeasts, wild fruits, or simple rice were left to ferment naturally, yielding a sweet, sour, slightly fizzy, low-alcohol drink, essentially the natural fruit spritzer of antiquity. Around 7,000 years ago, a great invention revolutionized Chinese winemaking, juke. Juke is essentially moldy grains, rich with fungi and yeast. The ancients accidentally discovered that using these moldy grain cakes to catalyze fermentation was more efficient and produced richer flavors. This humble moldy lump was actually remarkable ancient Chinese black tech, laying the foundation for yellow wine. Amber, hued yellow wine, mellow and warm, with the inherent sweetness of grain, has thrived for millennia. Even today, fine examples like Shaoxing yellow wine, grey state banquets, perfectly complementing delicate Wenyang and Hangzhou cuisine. By the Han, Tang, and Song dynasties, the wine family gained new members, medicinal wines and more refined fruit wines. The ancient desire for longevity and vitality projected strongly onto wine. What they steeped wasn't just the goji berries familiar today, but snakes, scorpions, centipedes, deer antlers, ginseng, and countless unnamed herbs, all tossed into wine jars. They believed wine could extract the essence of these substances, creating elixirs for health, strength, even resurrection. Some medicinal wines were buried underground for decades, awaiting their moment as life-saving treasures. The Book of Han even declared outright, "Wine is the chief of all medicines." While we now know some may have contained risks like heavy metals, this practice shows the deep ancient faith in wine's medicinal value. The most dramatic change came during the Yuan dynasty. With increased contact with Central and West Asia, distillation technology entered China. Craftsmen took the low-alcohol fermented grain mash and heated it in specialized apparatus. Alcohol boils at a lower temperature than water. The vapor rose, condensed upon cooling, and yielded a liquid clear as water yet packed with astonishing power, soaring above 50% alcohol. This potent liquor, due to its colorless transparency, was aptly named bijou. It cut like a knife on the tongue and burned like fire down the throat. First-time drinkers, even strong men, might be brought to tears, hence its fitting folk name, Xiaodiaozi. Baiju's arrival utterly transformed the Chinese drinking experience and culture. Drinking in China is never casual. The wrong setting drains even the finest wine of its charm. The oldest, most sacred occasion for wine is sacrifice. Since the Shang and Zhou dynasties, wine has been a vital medium connecting humans with gods, the living with the dead. In solemn ancestral temples, before incense, shrouded altars, bronze dew cups brimming with fine wine were raised high, then slowly poured onto the ground, accompanied by devout prayers. Ancestors, please enjoy this cup. People believed the rising vapors carried their reverence and wishes to the other world. Without wine, the sincerity of the sacrifice seemed diminished. Gods and ancestors might be displeased. If sacrifice is solemn, then literati gatherings represent wine culture's refined elegance. The classic scene is the famous Orchid Pavilion gathering of the Eastern Jin's Yonghe 9th year, and countless later imitations of floating wine cups along winding streams. On a clear, late spring day, scholars gathered by a stream. Sitting casually on the banks, they placed winged yusheng cups on wooden trays to drift slowly along the meandering water. The cup drifted. Stopped before whom? That person had to improvise a poem. Fail. Drink a forfeit. The preface to the Orchid Pavilion collection, revered as the #1 running script calligraphy under heaven, was penned by the sage of calligraphy, Wang Shizi, riding the wine, inspired fervor of this poetic gathering. Wine here was a catalyst for inspiration.
Nice.
The wine table could also be the most perilous arena, especially at court banquets, in political whirlpools. As early as the Zhou dynasty, officials like the wine master were appointed to oversee banquet etiquette. Who toasts first? How high to raise the cup? Order of pouring. Tone of speech. All strictly regulated. The slightest misstep, pouring out of order, or speaking too bluntly to offend a superior, could mean light punishment or even death. Take Song dynasty emperors. While aware that brewing consumed vast grain, urging farmers to brew less, store more, the state coffers heavily relied on wine taxes. Government-run breweries proliferated, filling the treasury. Why are the Chinese so enamored with wine? The reasons are likely more numerous than empty bottles. Primarily, it's a social necessity. In the Chinese view, no feast is complete without wine. A meal without it feels soulless, dry. The Chinese term zhuzuo holds immense meaning. A hub for social connections, a battlefield for business deals, headquarters for information exchange and gossip. To make new friends, deepen bonds, or get things done, you pour a cup, raise it, and sincerely say, I toast you. Second, wine is a harbor for escaping reality and seeking momentary peace. Under high political pressure or social turmoil, many chose immersion in drunkenness. The Wei Jin period had a famous drunkards club, epitomized by Ruan Ji. The court summoned him repeatedly for office, unwilling to compromise but afraid to openly rebel. What did he do? He drank himself into a stupor for dozens of days, using drunkenness as a shield, hiding in the wine country like an ostrich, ignoring the world, his political wisdom. Furthermore, for literati, wine sparks inspiration. Poetry immortally buys the ultimate icon. His timeless roar, when life goes well, drink your fill. Don't let the golden cup face the moon empty. And his majestic Bring in the Wine were reportedly composed in the heated wine, emotions erupting spontaneously. Expecting Li Bai to meticulously craft poems sober, that wouldn't be Li Bai. Finally, the ancients deeply believed in wine's health benefits, curing illness and prolonging life. The medicinal wines mentioned earlier are proof, whether strengthening bones and muscles, dispelling cold and dampness, or nourishing vitality, wine was seen as a crucial vehicle. While modern medicine shows many ancient recipes lack scientific basis or may even be harmful due to heavy metals or toxins, this beautiful pursuit of health and longevity is deeply woven into wine culture. Comparing Chinese wine table customs to those elsewhere reveals a dazzling variety. Take eye contact during toasts. East and West have starkly different rules. In China, juniors or subordinates must look sincerely into the eyes of seniors or superiors when toasting, a crucial gesture of respect and sincerity. shifty or evasive eyes signal disrespect or guilt. However, in some European countries like Germany and France, an interesting taboo exists. Never make eye contact while clinking glasses. Legend says locking eyes while toasting leads to 7 years of marital discord. Attitudes towards elders also differ. Chinese wine tables enforce strict hierarchy. Juniors must respectfully hold the cup with both hands when toasting elders, deliberately lowering their own cup brim below the elders, showing humility and respect. In many Western countries, toasting elders is far more casual. A cheerful cheers, a clink, drink as you please, in a relaxed atmosphere. But for sheer number of toast rounds, the Caucasus region's Georgia might win. They have a complex, ritualistic tradition called tamida. A single meal involves rounds, toasting, ancestors, parents, children, neighbors, friends, etc., often over a dozen rounds or more, requiring serious stamina. When spirits soar, cultures unleash differently. In Tang Dynasty Shangyan, the famous 8 immortals of the wine cup were immortalized by Du Fu's poems depicting their drunken antics. He Zhang riding like a boat, rocking into a well. Li by composing earth-shaking verses. Zhang Shu wielding his hair dipped in ink for wild cursive calligraphy. Jiao Sui astounding listeners with brilliant debate. Their drunkenness showcased talent and untamed elegance. Contrast this with Spain's Horror Wine Festival every June. Thousands in white flood the streets, drenching each other in crimson wine, instantly transforming the town into a red sea of joy, a fierce, exuberant wine battle full of carnival color. China's long history brims with drunken celebrity legends. Ruan Xian, nephew of Ruan Ji, and a master musician of the Wei Jin's 7 Sages of the Bamboo Grove, composed a famous Guqin piece called Drunken Ecstasy. Its melody is deliberately jarring, twisting and turning, rhythm erratic, vividly mimicking a drunkard's stumbling gait. Listen long enough, and you might feel dizzy. Ancient critics said it feigned drunkenness to use wine as cover for madness, protesting hypocritical rituals and dark realities through seemingly wild music. The Tang Dynasty produced the grass sage calligrapher Zhang Shu, whose wild cursive script reached divine levels. His peak writing moments often came deep in his cups. Legend says, drunken inspired, he grabbed his hair, dipped it in thick ink, and splashed it wildly across white walls. The strokes dragon, like, majestic, unrestrained. Sobering up, he'd gaze at the characters, stunned. This is godly writing. Only when told it was his own drunken work would he understand. Even the righteous poetry sage Du Fu got into wine trouble. In Chengdu, dependent on military governor Yan Wu, Du Fu once got drunk and inexplicably blurted out a vile insult in Yan Wu's face. How did Yan Tingzi sire a son like you? Hitting a raw nerve, Yan Wu flew into a rage, drew his sword, and chased Du Fu, only stopped by bystanders. Truly proving the saying, wine emboldens the coward, and sends him on his way. Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, architect of the Kaiyuan Golden Age, neglected governance in his later years, obsessed with consort Yang. History records him drunkenly killing a servant without cause. Sobering up, he wept bitterly in remorse, even briefly swore off wine. Yet a greater tragedy loomed. His indulgence and promotion of corrupt officials triggered the catastrophic Enlishun Rebellion. Prosperous Chang'an fell, the glorious Tang era ended. Faced with this national disaster, historians couldn't resist noting, quitting wine over killing one person. Such a personal trifle means nothing against losing an empire, a poignant commentary on history's vicissitudes. Digging deeper, the spiritual core of Chinese wine culture differs fundamentally from the West. In Greek mythology, a source of Western culture, the wine god Dionysus represents a complex, even dark force, symbolizing ecstatic frenzy, irrationality, often linked to pain, melancholy, even death and tragedy. The Dionysian spirit carries a destructive, tragic quality. Chinese wine, however, finds its spirit rooted in the philosophy of harmony between heaven and humanity. Heaven represents natural law, the cosmic Tao. Human is part of nature. In landscape paintings, humans are often a tiny dot amidst vast mountains and rivers. Drinking wine, to the Chinese, is a way to harmoniously blend with nature. A cup down, pleasantly tipsy, one feels united with all creation, dissolving the opposition between heaven and human, achieving a state of harmonious integration. Drinking styles also reflect differences. The Chinese value boldness. Where the Li Bai is exaggerated, we must drink 300 cups. Or the proverb, deep feelings. Down it in one gulp. The emphasis is on the exhilarating act of drinking freely. The key isn't savoring the wine's taste, but expressing inner feelings through this bold, unrestrained act. Influenced by medieval European chivalry, Westerners tend to view wine, especially fine wine, as precious. Knights might only share cellar treasures after sacking a wealthy city. Hence, they sip slowly, letting the liquid release its flavors, cherishing every drop. This contrast shines in literature. Chinese classics overflow with bold drinking. Li buys a gallon of wine. 100 Poems is iconic. Wu Song downing 18 bowls before fighting the tiger on Jingyang Ridge in water margin is legendary. Shang Yu's might at the Hongmen Feast required wine. Jing Ke's Wind Howls, the Yi River chills farewell before assassinating Qin, surely involve the farewell toast. Wine catalyzes heroism and releases humanity. Contrastingly, Western epics like Homer's works depict heroes drinking, even drunkenness, but in scope, depth, and prevalence, they pale next to Chinese literature's celebration of wine and bold spirit. Intriguingly, wine, seemingly at odds with ritual, became a thread weaving through Confucianism's core virtues: benevolence, righteousness, ritual, wisdom, and integrity. First, Ren, Confucian benevolence emphasizes human bonds. The wine table is the most direct, intimate crucible for forging these bonds. Over clinking cups, barriers melt, emotions warm. Wine is the indispensable medium for emotional fusion. Without it, deeper connections seem hard to achieve. Then, Yi, loyalty, chivalry, deep affection. These spirits intensify under wine's influence. Water margins, heroes drinking from big bowls, eating big chunks of meat, vividly embodies Zhonghu brotherhood. Warriors, setting off, drink, a farewell toast. The tragic resolve of gone forever resonates deeper with wine. Here, wine witnesses and fuels righteousness. Li manifests most visibly in wine culture. Ancient banquet rituals were intricate and strict, essentially rehearsing social hierarchy. Emperor, nobles, ministers, generals, who toasted first, who next, which cup to use, how much to drink, were meticulously regulated, almost like law. Sacrificing to ancestors and gods demanded wine as the most solemn offering. Wine was a vital tool for upholding ritual. See also sparkles over wine. How many strategies, how many battles of wits, unfolded amidst seemingly relaxed feasting. Emperor Taizu of Song's removing military power with a cup of wine is the pinnacle of Zi at the wine table. A banquet, a few cups, laughter and talk, and the founding general's military power was deftly dissolved, central authority secured, potential bloodshed avoided. Finally, Xin. Wine symbolizes trust. From state-level blood oaths sealing alliances to folk-sworn brotherhoods and marriage contracts, wine was the essential witness. Raising cups and draining them represented a solemn pledge and unbreakable trust. Cup is proof, wine sealing the bond. Wine became the most visible, potent seal of integrity. So, after millennia of change, is today's Chinese wine culture still like the ancient texts? The answer: changed, yet seemingly unchanged. Its core social function remains rock solid. Premium baijiu, especially brands like Motai and Wulianji, are still indispensable hard currency for business banquets, wedding feasts, and crucial social exchanges. A bottle of Malti on the table signals seriousness and boosts the odds of success, the direct continuation of traditional wine table culture. Yet, profound changes are underway, especially among the young. They increasingly reject their parents' "don't leave until drunk" or "better hurt your liver than hurt feelings" drinking culture. They favor lighter, more international craft beers and lower alcohol, sweet sour fruit, infused rice wines, or sparkling rice wines. They value the drinking experience and atmosphere, disliking forced toasts and drinking until vomiting. I am Amber. Catch you next time.